a lot of our systems are fundamentally based on the threat of violence. I'm not saying that people will not do horrible things, but we have a system that is built on this idea of violence, like money, like taxes, regulations, inflation. All of these things are imposed on you. There's no contract, you have no saying in it, you cannot opt out. So, and if you disagree, there's always a link to you being thrown in jail or bad things happening to you. So that whole system being based on the threat of violence, I think has creates major issues in our society, and blockchain at least offers a way out.
Hello and welcome to a new edition of Blockchain Talks with Sebastian Coquinescu. Today he's here with me, Vladimir Oane.
Hey.
Thank you for joining me. Today is a special day because this edition is actually a satellite event for the Unchained FinTech Festival in Oradea, which will take place on the 13th and 14th of July. It's going to be very interesting, and I'm happy that today's talk is a part of that industry talk in that event. Also, I would like to thank again, like every time, Netopia Payments for sponsoring this talk. And a few words about my guest today. As I said, Vladimir, thank you for joining me. And
It's a pleasure to be here.
You're quite an impressive guy. And I'm not saying this because we're friends, only because we are friends, but also because you're one of the first Romanian entrepreneurs that successfully sold the company to a big tech company, which was Hootsuite. You sold your social media company how long ago?
2014. So
2014, like
ages
ages ago in terms of
exactly.
tech startups. So congrats for that once more. And today you are the founder of Deepstash. That's a knowledge management app. I think later on you may be able to, and I would like you to explain a bit what does it mean, knowledge management app.
Right.
Sounds
Fancy.
interesting, fancy, but I'd like
Yeah.
a bit of explanation on that. So before going to our topics today, we have some interesting questions lined up. Please tell me a bit about yourself, your journey. How comes you're living the dream, right? You're the typical entrepreneur that started from zero without anything from a communist country, and then later on you're so successful with your startup and also selling a company. How did you manage to do that? What's your journey? What was your journey? And please, a few words about this Deepstash and what you're doing today.
Right. I don't think I did anything spectacular. I just follow my interest. I made friends with people who are as ambitious as myself, and yeah, we built cool stuff. Some of which was successful. Other stuff failed miserably. But we kept on going with enthusiasm. Yeah, I mean, like one thing that it's probably interesting about myself is that I combine my passion for technology and computers with the social sciences. My dad is a history teacher, and I grew up in a library surrounded by history, philosophy books, and that kind of shaped my intellectual being, if you will. And yeah, later in life, I discovered computers, and I found computers to be this amazing tool that you can create things with without permission. I think the permissionless aspect of computers is what drove me.
What do you mean without permission?
Well, you could, if you wanted to build something let's say in the real world, you had to engage with the real world in terms of, I don't know,
Authorities,
getting
right.
capital, getting permissions, I don't know, all these rules and regulations of the real world, which for me as a young guy were very intimidating. I had no idea how the whole world. But with the computer, if you know how to code and you have an idea, it's just you. Nothing can stop you. I mean, like, make amazing things happen. And yeah, I guess that was the magic of computers for me. I'm sure that's not a special story. That's probably the story of our whole generation.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like, I kept on going, try different things.
So to sum it up, you got a good education, a good background in education. You found computers later on, and then magic
then
happened.
then I tried things out. I mean, for me, again, I grew up in a time where there were no like tech giants that I could get a job at. I don't know if, I don't know, I would have been born 20 years later and not grew up in the early 2000s. I mean, like, get my career started in the early 2000s when, especially in this part of the world, there was nothing. So there was no Google or Amazon or whatever that you can get a job at. And so I had to, in order to work on interesting things, you had to become an entrepreneur. I mean, like,
And when did you get your breakthrough? I mean, 2014 yeah, it was 2014. That's a long
I mean,
time
like,
ago.
I started in 2003. So yeah, the overnight success takes about a decade,
Right.
then more than a decade. And I tried different things. I mean, like, I had a web development agency. I tried to do software for university when I was in university. Performance marketing, hotel bookings. I did a bunch of stuff. I built a CMS until I got to start Uberview and discover the world of social media, and got into that for a while until we were acquired, and then of course stayed as an exec on the social media analytics team. So yeah, that was my
Journey.
my journey so far. Yeah, but I think I'm just getting started. I mean, like,
Right.
I know I started in 20 years ago, but I still have some energy, and there's still some fire in me.
And
So,
Deepstash.
and Deepstash, yeah, Deepstash is my latest company. I started with a group of people that are as passionate as me, and Deepstash is a network where people who have curiosities and interests, who are consuming information, are sharing what we call ideas, which is their insights. So we can learn from one another and organize our ideas in collection, which we call stashes in the app. It's an app. It started in 2019. There are 2 million of us on the platform.
Wow, that's
creating
great
ideas
traction.
and sharing ideas. And yeah, it's a free app. We recently introduced some paid subscriptions, but all the content is free. You can use it for free. So yeah, if people here want to give it a shot, we're on all.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what made you, let's say, think about at some point in life blockchain? Of course, how did you discover Bitcoin? How did you discover blockchain? And how does that actually align with your personal journey so far?
Yeah, interesting question. I was always interested in philosophical ideas. I was never interested in economics until later in life. I would say I had my progression from, I don't know, ignorant person towards, I don't know, discovering my personal operating system, intellectual operating system, which happened in the last, I don't know, 15 years. And Bitcoin and crypto kind of surfaced to the general, I don't know, I'm missing the word. I don't know. It became popular as I became much more, I don't know, libertarian or interested in freedom and stuff like that. So it was a match made in heaven. Although I think you can also do it the other way around. Start with crypto and create like a personal operating system by chasing the crypto rabbit hole, which I find fascinating, actually.
Well, it is. For anyone that is following crypto Twitter, I mean, it's impossible not to notice that people are not arguing on what coin has more value in terms of fiat currency, but the arguments and the fights on crypto Twitter are around philosophical questions and more.
That's the good part of
Yeah,
crypto. I mean, like
I love it
there
too.
are the scammers. There are quite a lot of scammers, but yeah, the philosophical part is there. But what I find interesting is not just the world of ideas, which I happen to be very interested in with Deepstash, but the fact that people go into crypto and then they improve their lives like visibly. I mean, like a person.
Is it because they make more money, or is it because they become more intellectually, I don't know, happy?
It's a combination of both. But how can someone buy some Bitcoin and then, I don't know, 2 years later they have a six pack, or they're eating healthier and they fix their relationships and stuff like that? And I'm seeing those stories over and over again, which I
So
find.
there's a link between these two.
I think so, yes.
Correlation.
So, yeah.
Then I have to ask you, why do you think is okay to step back a bit? Why is blockchain such a big deal in your opinion?
Yeah,
I know it's
a very
vague and complex question, but why is it a big deal?
The simple answer is that the chain, the blockchain, is a technology that allows us to regain personal sovereignty. That's the simple answer. However, I think the value is in the complicated answer, which I'm not going to try to get to. But the journey to get to that answer, I think that's where the value is. So I tell people, listen, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is buy some crypto, but with conviction. And the value is in the journey for you to become convinced to make that purchase, whether it's some blockchain or some ether, whatever. Let's not go into the details, but buy, I don't know, 0.001 Bitcoin, but do it with conviction. And
why would anyone do that except making more money overnight?
you do it because, I mean, you can start with Bitcoin because you find it interesting, but if you want to understand what it is that makes Bitcoin interesting to you, that will open what I call the Bitcoin rabbit hole.
Right.
Because I mean, like, it's like, imagine like the conversation that you will have to have with yourself to make that purchase if you want to do it with the conviction that we're discussing. So why should I buy Bitcoin? Because it's better money. Okay, what's money? That's a simple, stupid questions, but most of us don't know what money is and don't care. Yeah. Like, okay, so then you discover that it's a medium of exchange and it's a store of value. Okay, why is that important? That itself opens a very deep philosophical question about preserving value over space and time. And the question is like, okay, so if this is money, then what is good money? And good money is like durable, it's sound, it's recognizable, it's scarce. Why scarcity? Why is scarcity important? And that will get into a discussion that will take you to history, because you will discover that there is this problem with inflation. How big is that problem? Okay, and then you're gonna go into some history. You're gonna learn.
And at some point you become angry.
Yeah.
Because you realized at some point that you're not in charge of your life.
Exactly. Yes. So
and that's a rabbit hole.
You're gonna learn history. You're gonna learn philosophy. You're gonna learn all these things, and then you'll end up with, okay, so personal sovereignty is important. So I guess I should have the freedom to make my own decisions. So what should I do?
Right.
And then you will discover the actual freedom comes with responsibility. I mean, if you buy into property rights, that's the flip side of the coin that most people who are, I don't know, freedom maximalists, let's say, are missing out, is that the property rights comes with responsibility. That property and responsibility are part of the same equation. Because if you have freedom and you have property rights. Yourself is the one that you own, which is the most important, like your body, your
And you
mind,
should
and you
own
should
yourself.
exactly. So what should I do with the most important property that I have? I should take care of it. I should maximize my well-being. How should I do that? So yeah, that's for me, that journey of this thing that all the kids are talking about on the streets. I should probably looked into that, and like 2 years later, your life is so much better because
But only if you take that journey. I
of
mean,
course,
if
yes.
you're driven by just getting more money, you're prone to losing them, and that's it.
Yeah, but that's
Losing
true
it.
for pretty much anything.
So Jason Kalakanis just tweeted a couple of days ago that he's interested in finding out what are some companies that are actually creating in the crypto space some crypto products or blockchain products that are not related to financial DeFi or something like that. And what struck me as interesting was that not only that there aren't as many as you would think, but also that those that replied to his tweet were not really able to articulate what are the main advantages of crypto companies or blockchain companies. And my question to you would be, if you are aware of some major use cases for this new technology, and side question then, what's your take on the new buzzwords, NFTs, metaverse, and so on? But first of all, I would like to know if you are aware, or what would be your gut would tell you, if you can't have some real examples, what would be some major use cases, at least, for blockchain?
Well, the way I look at blockchain is it's a technology that allows coordinating human action without the use of force, which is remarkable because throughout our history, most of the coordination has done through the threat of violence, whether it's a ruler, do as I say, or else I'm gonna throw you into jail. I'm gonna, I don't know, behead you if you happen to live during the French Revolution, or So our history is made up of rulers. Blockchain allows us to get together and do things as a group, as a community, without having this constant threat of violence. So where is that violence being perpetrated on us? Where can we improve our communication with the use of blockchain? Where there is like a central authority. I don't know, like lawyers and accountants and politicians. All those systems are ripe for disruption. That's a complicated, I don't know, first step as an entrepreneur. That's not the minimum viable product. So I think having companies that start from the bottom with some use cases is going to be the way to go. Yeah, it's right. I mean, like DeFi seems to make a lot of sense as a class of applications that I don't know can work on blockchain, because the banking system has a lot of issues, but in some of those issues can be seen by consumers. Like, you cannot send money to someone over the weekend because the banks don't work over the weekend, or you cannot trade over the weekend, which is, again, if you think about trading as a way to propagate signal and to make to share knowledge using prices, the fact that you can trade only in the, I don't know, 8 hours a day during the weekdays that the New York Stock Exchange is open, it's stupid. And I mean, feels like it constrains our ability to speak freely. And blockchain, even with like stable coins and stuff like that, can make the existing banking system way better. I'm waiting for the high level, I don't know, systemic use cases, whether it's like reinventing government, voting and stuff like that. Probably is going to take a long time to get there. I think gaming makes a ton of sense on the short term. I think yeah, gaming.
Supply
is-
chain might be
Supply
might be
chain,
another
yeah,
one.
supply chain. You're into that for sure.
So your take on NFTs and metaverse and these new buzzwords,
All are cool technologies.
right? So do you think they're here to stay? I just heard today someone saying in a conference that 8 months later nobody will talk about NFTs and metaverse. It's gonna be a whole new kid on the block that's gonna take the credit. So I happen to disagree. I think NFTs are here to stay, and it's wonderful that they're here. Metaverse started in 1985, and it's still going strong. Ask any kid about
Metaverse
Roblox.
is here. I mean, like this phone
Right.
is version
Gate
one
to-
of the metaverse. I mean, like we are all. If you think of metaverse as a place where you live your life,
Fortunately.
yeah, virtually, then I would say the phone with some of the social media apps, it's like V1 of that. And I'm not really sure that the third dimension and the immersion into a game-like experience is going to improve things so much better. It's like the analogy with the self-driving cars. I tell people I already have a self-driving car. It happens to be called an Uber. But the experience is quite similar. I mean, I press a button, a car comes in, I get into
It's
the
not
car, and
self-driving. It's not driven by you.
it's exactly. But if yeah,
Is it the
exactly.
same?
It's
Yeah.
from the user experience perspective.
Less the horror of not having someone driving it.
Yeah, I mean, like the only downside is that sometimes you have to have a semi-awkward conversation with the driver. But apart from that, it's quite magical. And the metaverse is probably in that similar stage. With NFTs and all these like crypto buzzwords, of course they are here to stay. I mean, like the fact that we use NFTs for low pixelated art, and that the fact that it started as an expression of internet meme culture, it doesn't invalidate the use of the technology
And the importance.
and the importance of the technology. Yeah, you may find whatever ape image being valued as $1 million as stupid. I happen to think so about a lot of the NFTs, but I appreciate the technology, and it can be used for so many different things. The fact that this is I don't know how it got started. It just, I don't know, the first step.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you think then is the long-term impact of decentralization? Because that's the main feature, let's say, of blockchain technology, right? So what is the long-term impact on our society?
I tend to think very little about society.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm more focused on personal change. So I think that the way to a better society is through personal growth and
Well-being.
personal responsibility. So if you want a better family, be a better model for your kids. Live the best life that you can personally, so that you can inspire, I don't know, the next generation to follow in your steps. Not necessarily like be selfish and do crazy stuff. Be in a way like rational selfish. That's how you improve society. And for me, the aspect of crypto and Bitcoin is that it starts that internal dialogue with yourself. Because if you are to be your own bank and you can store your value, and say that Bitcoin, leaving the debate aside, let's say the Bitcoin is the perfect store of value. So that understanding that gives you a mental framework where you have to think about your life in longer time frames, because now this money that I have is going to have value 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So if I have my future yeah, and also there's no systemic risk of a ruler coming and taking my wealth, because they can't, because Bitcoin is an amazing technology, then what should I do with my life? What should I focus on? What am I to do with my 50 years left on this planet?
But this seemed like thousands of years old questions. It's not
But yeah,
new. It's just
the answers are
blockchain.
personal though.
Right.
And I mean, like, no one can answer those. There's no high level meaning of life. You have to create your own meaning. You have to start living now.
In the present.
In the present, exactly, yes. And that's how you make a better society. There's like, I'm into Zen and Buddhism and stuff like that. And there's this saying that if you become a Zen student, you have to also be a Zen master. So, be happy and help everyone else be happy. And I think that's how we get better, using that Zen philosophy. Like, take care of your life and spread the gospel. Kind of what you're doing now with this podcast, right?
Right.
You're not like,
Thank
hey,
you.
everyone, we should pick it in front of the government and ask for Bitcoin becoming like legal tender.
That would be interesting.
But because that's not how technology like this gets deployed. I mean, like, it needs, Bitcoin cannot be Bitcoin, and blockchains should not be deployed. It should be adopted. And
Right.
if you are to adopt it, then you have to do it on your own terms and on your own values, and discovering those, it's what makes crypto so fascinating to me.
So it's the journey, not the destination. So
Exactly.
what would you think then it's the link between libertarianism and blockchain? Why is it a marriage made in heaven? I mean, blockchain we already covered a bit, and by now at least our viewers should have a pretty good idea on what it's about. How about libertarianism, and why they're linked? Why would you think that it's this marriage made in heaven?
Well, I mean, like, libertarianism puts liberty and personal freedom as the ultimate ideal. However, if you pick up a history book, that's not the history of our civilization, and we made a lot of progress. I mean, we have more and more freedom. I don't know, religious freedom, all sorts of like civil liberties that we didn't have like 200 years ago. But there are still some pockets of authoritarianism and central authority that kind of libertarian thinkers have been discussing about. So that is monopoly on money, which is huge, and then monopolies on education, monopolies on healthcare, which kind of derive from monopoly of money. They are so linked, and so yeah, I mean, like, a technology comes telling that, you know what, we can make things together as a group without one of us being the king. Which again, I mean, like, all the libertarian philosophers, whether you look at, I don't know, Mises or Hayek, or they speak the philosophy and they put up the rules, but it was very hard until crypto to see how are we gonna make the transition from, I don't know, fiat and the king and the ruler and the priest to this, I don't know, autonomous, violence-free, because we still have to do things together, right? I mean, like,
How would that be violence free? I mean, I know the ideas behind libertarianism, but how would that be even possible? Because it's a human nature.
Of course, I mean, like, I'm not saying that we eliminate violence, but a lot of our systems are fundamentally based on the threat of violence. I'm not saying that people will not do horrible things, but we have a system that is built on this idea of violence, like money, like taxes, regulations, inflation. All of these things are imposed on you. There's no contract, you have no saying in it, you cannot opt out. So, and if you disagree, there's always a link to you being thrown in jail or bad things happening to you. So that whole system being based on the threat of violence, I think has creates major issues in our society, and blockchain at least offers a way out. inflation, for example, which is something that we discussing these days, it's a form of theft. I'm being robbed.
Taxation might be
Of course,
said that is a form of theft.
of course. Yeah, taxation as money that is being taken without you agreeing to it. I'm sure people should be donating or contributing to whatever cause they want voluntarily. That's the core tenet of libertarianism. The people like us who are more libertarian, we don't like being forced to do things. I had a buddy of mine during COVID, and I don't know if you guys remember, but 2 years ago we had this thing, and
Still too early. Still too early to say.
But yeah, like we were forced to
do a bunch of stuff.
to stay in homes, and I was in my hometown, and there were policemen who were going on the streets to make sure that people stay inside the house. And I have a friend who is politically completely on the other side from myself, and is like, hey, so what are you doing, man? Are you going party? And I'm at home in lockdown like everyone else. It's like, so how does a libertarian take the lockdown?
Right, it's a nightmare.
And how do you do it? And I said, I do it voluntarily.
On my own terms.
On my own. I mean, because I care about my health,
Right.
And I care about the health of others, and that's why
That's a best case scenario.
Of course, but I hate the idea that there's a guy with a gun forcing me to do something that it's in my best interest, and if it's not in my best interest, then it's also good to be stupid, and I'm gonna probably do a bunch of stupid things that will
if you have the choice of doing those.
Of course, yeah.
Because usually in authoritarian regimes you have no choice. But let's say, for the sake of the argument, okay, there's an ideal libertarian world where people care about their well-being and their wealth and so on. They're not violent. How about the others that do not adhere to this philosophy? So okay, there's no government, no social contract.
You went super far, but yeah, let's just go.
Just for the sake of 1 minute thought experiment, right?
Yeah.
And there's you and people like you that really believe in libertarianism, but there are the others that do not,
right?
And there's no way of keeping them out of your property.
Why?
Because there's no way, no central authority that protects you. You are on your own, and you're one, and maybe 10 of the others will jump at you. What would you do then?
There's a big discussion on, and I don't claim to know all the answers. I think where we are right now and the utopic situation or the dystopian situation, depending on how you look at it, it's so far away. I think we can make improvements on personal freedom from where we are without discussing, I don't know, hot topics like should police be private or not.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, like, there are a lot of like intellectual discussions around that, whether should there be a monopoly on force. And yeah, I don't have strong feelings, and even amongst libertarians there are these debates. I mean, there are people who are anarchists who think that the state is useless and we should be dissolved. There are people who think that, I don't know, we should probably return to the more classical American ideals where the role of the state is to protect personal freedom, and they should do that with the police and an army and the judicial system. All of those projects, let's say, from where we are right now, are good. I mean, like, let's just go in that direction,
Okay.
I feel like right now as a society we're going the other way, though. I mean, even with all the blockchain advancements, I think people are going against personal freedom.
But there's hope. I mean, look at DAOs, right?
Yeah.
Decentralized autonomous organizations. They are now legal, a legal form of organization of an LLC adopted by the state of Wyoming. Those that actually
I didn't know that.
in the 70s invented the LLCs, which is
So cool.
by far the most widespread adopted form of organization for a company. So now they agree that DAOs could be used for organizing yourself. I think there's hope to what you just said. I mean, if we start by self-organizing a company or a group of people, or vote on the rights of whatever, I think this is where blockchain may may do some incremental improvements.
Yeah.
So then, logical next question. How do you think the social contract is impacted by blockchain?
I don't believe that the social contract that Rousseau postulated a few hundred years ago is a real thing. I think, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Please do elaborate on that. I mean, it sounds
Yeah, well,
interesting.
have you read it?
Well, kind of.
Where is it? Yeah.
It's written everywhere.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
When
So
you see it in the police.
it's not really sure to me what's in the contract. I didn't sign anything. So as a concept, I think, yeah, I mean, it's very romantic the way, I don't know, Rousseau used to do things. But being a pragmatic, I kind of want to know what I signed up for. What are the rules?
You were born.
You were born, yes.
So then
But
you signed up for it.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, like each country seems to have a different interpretation of what's in that social contract. If I don't know, let's say the Constitution can be like a proxy for that. I don't know. Most constitutions are bullshit. I mean, the U.S. Constitution is pretty great, but I don't know, whatever we have in Europe is.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, I mean, it's self-contract. I mean, like, we can take the Romanian constitution or most of the European constitution, make fun of them all day long. Very few constitution in the history of humanity were respected or were really thought through. Let's just say.
So how can we then deploy and use blockchain for a better society?
Not deploy, adopt. I'm not a fan of deploying. To me, seems like,
well, okay.
Yeah, I'm not into deploying anything.
Then, but you are deploying an
of
app.
course. But it's like I'm putting something out, and if you like it, you can use it. But that's
Well, Satoshi Nakamoto did that.
exactly, yes.
He put it there. So or she. How do we make use of blockchain for a better society then? Best case scenario.
Well, if you are, so step one is like take blockchain seriously. I mean, like, really study it and understand it. And I think if you do that the right way, then get involved, but get involved on limited scale. I don't think you have to become an activism or and ask for some systemic change. I think what you're doing is actually the right. Like, let's talk about it. Like, let's talk about it. That's for me the most important thing. Of course, in today's environment with the whole cancel culture and stuff like that, people are a little bit afraid to open their mouth. But what you're doing, I think, is the right way. To some extent, what we are doing with Deepstash is let's talk about it. And if these ideas are good ideas, and I think blockchain and Bitcoin are good ideas, NFTs are good ideas, I think we should talk about it, and we should talk about it in small circles. Talk about it with friends, talk about it with family, and I don't know, make smarter decisions. And that's how we change.
And go down the rabbit hole.
Go down the rabbit
Right.
hole. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
What are then some caveats or some caveats, some problems, some I don't know, things that we might not foresee while not deploying, while making use of blockchain for a better society? What's something that we might not see? Might be we ourselves might be blinded by this I don't know, effervescence or hype, or however you want to call it, on the rabbit hole for about the trip. But what would be, let's say, something that we haven't thought through?
Well, the danger is for blockchain and crypto to turn into some sort of like a pseudo religion or some sort of a dogma. And you see that in some areas where it's like Bitcoin fixes everything and crypto fixes everything, and I don't know, someone has this problem where if he bought some Bitcoin, there wouldn't have been any problem. I mean, like, you can take these
That's
to
extreme, yeah.
Exactly. But I think it's easy to turn it into some sort of like a religious fervor and not realize that just because we have the technology doesn't mean we're gonna put it to good use. I mean, a lot of the projects that are out there will not work. There's going to be a lot of like failure, and there are still things that we haven't figured it out. So I think that's the caveat for blockchain, to be aware that it's still early days. I mean, we're talking
Very
I don't know,
early.
very
Right.
yeah, we're very early. And also when for an entrepreneur like myself, one of the things that I'm trying to balance is the power and the transparency of like a blockchain, but also the speed to iterate and try things out, which is still something to be worked on from a technical point of view, but also from more like a philosophical point of view, because once you put things on a chain, it's kind of hard to change and adapt, and that's super exciting, but that's also kind of like scary for an entrepreneur trying an idea that might not work in version 1 if you put it on chain, and then you feel like, I know how to make it version 2. Can you make
wait.
version 2?
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait,
It's a bit too
exactly,
late.
yes. So yeah, that was one of the things that that I don't know, kept us from, I don't know, doing Deepstash on a chain from day one.
Are you planning on using blockchain in Deepstash? Because you
Eventually,
basically have the conditions for, you have a strong community, 2 million people, you said, users, and then you have an interesting product which works, which
Exactly.
has traction.
Yeah.
I mean, by now, 99% of crypto projects did not qualify.
Exactly.
So you have these, and you're not using right now blockchain or crypto. So
not
because
using,
you said there's a responsibility for trying out new things, and then if it's on a blockchain, then you can't maybe do it again or redo it, and only have one shot. However, did you consider maybe at some point you're let's say old school startup backed by Google, right? Or some
No, we have
major
VCs. Yeah.
right? So you're an old school startup.
Right.
How would you see? Is it jeopardizing maybe your plans for the future if you're implementing blockchain? Are you considering it or not? Is that something that you thought about?
We're
Yes,
definitely
no?
considering when we have weekly discussions around blockchain. For us, is we're not sure that the model that we have right now could be written in stone on a blockchain.
Well, you're a startup.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes. So we kind of like tinkering with stuff and testing some hypotheses, and eventually, yes, I think we will have to move on a chain.
Did you have some requests from your community?
Yeah, there are people asking us, like every week I get a message from one of our users like, will there ever be like a stash coin or a deep coin, whatever, you know? And
What would be its utility?
well, yeah, that's the discussion that we
That's
have
the main
internally.
question.
Because you can have it like a transactional utility where, I know, there are creators and then there are consumers, and you have like a token to facilitate this transfer of value. There's another aspect where you will have a token to actually send like karma points or goodwill to I don't know,
Incentivize.
likes and reactions and stuff like that. or it could be like a way to organize communities with DAOs and stuff like
Both.
that. So there are multiple ways to do it. The last thing we want, going back to your buzzword question, is like, hey, let's jump on this new buzzword. Like, no, we have to understand how this would make the experience better. If we are adopting blockchain just for the hell of it, I don't think that's super useful. I know you can raise a lot of money, and there's like a lot of people pumping money in all these startups that might not work. We want to create something that is useful for people, that brings joy and happiness in their life. And once we are sure that we're doing that, we'll put that on the chain so that everything is like transparent and
Well,
kind of works
that's
with
how it
ours.
should be done.
Yeah, I mean, like
Congratulations for
make
that.
it useful first, and blockchain it's like all these game companies. I'm so sure that gaming is makes a lot of sense on crypto, but a lot of the project that I'm seeing is games that are more crypto than they are games. I mean, like, no, I'm like, if you're making a game, make sure that it's
Focus on the
fun.
game.
Yeah, make sure that the game is fun, and then the crypto should enhance
Compliment.
exactly the fun that you're having while playing the game. If it's just I don't know, let's just start with the tokens and then add some game mechanics on top, you failed. And this is what we're trying to avoid with Deepstash.
Congrats, by the way. I think that's how it should be done. A startup should have their priorities straight, like building something that people want, and then getting some traction, and then think
Yeah.
about adding some new technology if it's helpful for them. So, how do you see the future tech-wise? I know it's a vague question, but I would like to know your take on what's for the next generations to come coming. Besides blockchain, right?
I don't think the future. What interests me in technology is actually the philosophical debates that we are having with these new technologies. And I think the philosophy is going to be much more important than hard tech in the next few decades, because we already have access to some amazing technologies. If you think about blockchain or all the AI or the metaverse and stuff like that, I mean, like the technology is progressing faster than our ability to integrate the implications of these technologies. So for me, I think people into technology, like, I don't know, the two of us, have to get a little bit more interested in ideas and evangelizing those ideas and getting involved in shaping the zeitgeist a little bit, because that's kind of where the 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 opportunity for maximum value is. Um, and those debates are starting to happen. I mean, you started a podcast to facilitate that. But if you're into technology, get into those debates. Like, what should be the purpose of an AI? Where does an AI utility stops? What's the personal responsibility of someone
Ethics.
who's using AI? Like all those discussions that we have. I mean, like we can have a technology that can make anarchy work, right? Through blockchain. Let's just say, I mean, like, take the anarcho-capitalist dream and say, like, blockchain allows for that. Should we do it? How should we do it? What are the constraints?
Downsides.
And I mean, like, those for me are fascinating ideas, and uh, participating in those discussions, it's where the future of technology is. And we see it at the world scale. We see how, I don't know, China is looking at AI, and how, I don't know, more free countries are looking at AI. And that's a philosophical difference. And of course, there are a lot of people on our side of the planet who's looking at China and like, oh, I would like some of that censoring power. Maybe we should do it ourselves. So yeah, that's for me the interesting part. I mean, I would like things to turn more on more freedom and more personal responsibility, less prescriptions, less regulations, but we'll see. I mean, right now it seems that we're going the other way. Hopefully the pendulum will swing, and
That's a bit grim.
well, I mean, like if you're looking at right now, I mean, you have all the central banks printing money like there's no tomorrow, and of course, if you look at inflation as robbery, I don't like being robbed, you know, or
Of money that you didn't know you had.
so, yeah, exactly, and
They
you
haven't
can
been
you can
printed yet.
understand that, and yeah, I mean, like what's happening right now, the assault on free speech, and there are so many examples that for someone who has this inclination towards freedom and personal responsibility are part of some sort of like a dystopian future. But then again, I mean, not all is lost. Usually, I don't know, the history swings in
Cycles.
in the other direction, and probably 10 years from now, we're gonna, I don't know, talk about right-wing authoritarianism, and
Let's hope not.
yeah.
So, for now, I see that things are. You may be aware that I'm very interested in geopolitics and blockchain and technology in general, and I think it's a mixture.
I got a sense you are into these topics, yes.
So, my question to you is: would you think that? Would you say these things exclude each other? These worlds, the old world, the regular things that we are used to, the social contract that is not written anywhere, that we are born into. And on the other side, on the other hand, the new technologies such as blockchain that allow us maybe in the near future to self-organize and to be more in charge of our freedom, of our own freedom, and to be self-sovereign. So is there a way, for now at least, for the foreseeable future, for these new and old worlds to work together?
Why do you think they are so separate? I mean, like,
Well, because I've seen, at least lately, there's such a pushback against crypto and blockchain from
but I think
central banks and from states. And I've seen, on the other hand, central banks and states and governments that are very much pushing on the opposite of what blockchain actually is proposing.
I don't think they're incompatible. I think like the decentralized, freedom focused, blockchain based future allows for what we already have. And for me, this is like,
How would that even work?
well, let's just say, I mean, like, there's this debate of which one is better, like capitalism and socialism. Let's just take that as two extremes.
Let's go to the light discussion.
Right. Which is pretty much, I mean, like you could use that discussion as a proxy for what you're asking, because the whole social contract and institution are kind of like someone deciding and forcing the other people versus us being in charge of our destiny. So through proxy, let's just use like capitalism and socialism. And I say to people, I mean, like if there was someone who was a big believer in socialism, he should also want like a version of capitalism that was as free, because if there is voluntary if you can associate voluntary with other people, you can create the perfect socialist utopia inside of a capitalist country. Like if you think that
Right. How about the other way around?
the other way around is not possible. So that's why I'm saying, I mean, like you can create if you believe that, I don't know, property is bullshit and it should be like from each according to
Come on, girl.
his power to each according to his need, or whatever the saying goes, you can get a bunch of your friends, get a piece of land and leave that according to
Commune.
your ideals, the socialist, and there are people who are doing that in the United States. So one includes the other, but the other one doesn't. So I would say, yeah, there is a way, but that way should be voluntary. I mean, like if you think that you and your friends should organize whatever a healthcare system in this, I don't know, different, you could do it. You could do it on blockchain. Create a DAO with these
Right.
rules
Right.
and see how it goes. And maybe it works and maybe it
Well,
doesn't.
that's a new startup idea.
Yeah, I mean, like you could move all the old school systems of organizing on a blockchain and make it work just the way they work right now, minus all the corruption, which will be an improvement. Either way.
It's good to hope.
So yeah, I would say decentralizing and freedom is so much better than authoritarianism and that force-based existing social contract. And if you think that the existing systems are so much better, then yeah, I mean, like, try it out, put it on a chain, see how it works. If it's so great, people will voluntarily join your DAO or whatever, and we see how it goes. So yeah, that's kind of
Thank
how
you.
I see.
That's an awesome answer, and I'd like to wrap it up and finish this discussion that I would love to continue for the next 12 hours or so. But would you please tell me what would be your book recommendations for someone that wanna go through this path, through this rabbit hole? What would you say? Maybe one or two books that come to your mind. I know there's so many that you've read. At least, okay, let's narrow it down. How would you start the journey through the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole?
I don't know, probably with some documentaries or something.
Such as?
So I don't know, economic documentaries. I don't know, like Nixon. Start with Nixon. I think
Start with Nixon.
Start with Nixon. I think,
1971.
yeah. I think because I don't know, he cut the US dollar from the gold standard, and he was such an interesting individual. You can start with that, or you could start with I don't know, more philosophical book like Thinking Like a State. Which is a book about how this social contract, imagine social contract being forced by a central authority, can lead to all sorts of disasters with good intentions. I mean, like all the people who are preaching the social contract, I think they want the best for themselves and for their friends. I mean, I don't think people are fundamentally evil. They want to do good, but when you think you have the right answers that have to be imposed on the others, that usually leads to tragedy. And I think a book like Thinking Like a State, it's going to be an eye-opener for many.
Thank you for this recommendation, and thank you for joining me today. It's been great having you, and
thank you.
I'm grateful for this talk. So you've heard it here first at Blockchain Talks with Sebastian Gochinescu. Thank you, Vladimir Oane, for joining me.
Thank you so much.
This was a satellite event for the Unchained FinTech Festival in Oradea. That's going to take place on the 13th and 14th of July in Oradea, Romania. Thanks to Netopia Payments for sponsoring this talk. And I hope to see you again for more and more interesting talks. Bye-bye.
See you, everyone. Bye.